Hey guys, Joe. I just finished my workout. I'm just out chilling by the pool, and I've been having some conversations this morning, online with people, and it's funny how on certain days things seem to go to common threads. And something that come up that I've been kind of wanting to address for a long time. I thought I'd just go ahead and make a quick video on it, and that is the concept of the alpha male. Um, which has just been so destroyed and bastardized by idiots on the internet um, these days. In the modern mind, in the modern, whatever you want to call it, on the internet, the alpha male it's all about him. It's all centered around him. He's the big shot. He's sitting in the club surrounded by his hoes and bitches, and he makes his money selling drugs to kids on the street or whatever the hell, and if anybody disrespects him, he pops a cap in their ass, and this is their idea of what it is to be an alpha male. And this is just so inconsistent with both sanity and biology. So let me tell you a little story. Back in the early days of anthropology and stuff, I believe it was the late, great Raymond Dart, and maybe Robert Ardrey, but I could be wrong. Anyway, some guys, some scientists, were studying primates to see how primate behavior worked and how that might relate to human behavior. And they had picked, in this particular study, they had picked baboons because baboon society is so similar to human society in so many ways. It's a group that has a territory and moves around, and they have similar structures. And they wanted to understand things like how did the orders come down from Alpha that it was time to move, or where they were moving, or what was going on, right? They wanted to understand the communications and things like that. So, and just how the structure worked. So they set up blinds in feeding areas, and they would observe for days and weeks and months the baboons coming and doing their thing and going. And they had a terrible problem. In order to be able to really understand Alpha and understand how the whole system was working, they had to identify Alpha. And they were having trouble telling who the alpha male was. Sometimes it would take them weeks of observation, which sounds bizarre, because if he's sitting in the middle of the club surrounded by his hoes and bitches, you know what I mean? But it's the reality of it. The general structure of the baboons was that there were typically around 3 males, kind of at the center of the troop. And then there were the females in there with them, and the young. And then at the outer edge, there were what they called the omega males. And these terms may have changed in modern times, but this is what it was in those days. You had alpha, you had 2 betas, which is not a bad thing to be, despite what the internet tells you now. Then the females and the young, and then the omega males. The omega males were basically kind of the losers, But telling alpha from the betas was hard. So finally, they came up with a plan. They put a stuffed leopard in a box, kind of hidden by sides or by curtains or something, so that the baboons, when they came, they wouldn't see the stuffed leopard. And they'd wait in their blind, and the baboons would come, and they'd get settled into their feeding and doing all their stuff. And once they got settled in, they'd pull a rope from the blind that would drop the sides of the box, exposing the stuffed leopard. Immediately, the omega males would point and scream and run away from the area and just scream up bloody murder. The omega male's job, in addition to being kind of cannon fodder, if something gets the jump on the troop, it's the omega male who gets eaten because he's extra, right? Don't really need him. But his other job is to spot and watch anything that might be wrong, that might be going on. He's the early warning system, the alarm. And interestingly enough, subsequent research showed that the omegas were actually really good at that. at spotting a stripe where a spot should be or whatever. Their brains were slightly altered in order to make them really good at spotting irregularities. Makes sense, right? In human society, these are conspiracy theorists. They sit, and the minute they see anything out of place, they scream bloody murder, or they imagine a monster or a leopard or whatever it is, and attract everybody's attention. Now, I don't say that as a criticism. These people are important, necessary even. We need an early warning system, but understand they are not the people who are designed to deal with things. They are the people who are designed to spot things. And I think we all know, anybody in the prepping community or anything knows that if it ever really does hit the fan, these conspiracy theory guys aren't going to last very long, because they don't have the strength and the leadership and the practical nature to their thinking and their brains. But anyway, I digress. So the first thing that would happen is the omega males point and yell and scream and raise hell. The next thing that would happen is the whole troop, guided by the two beta males, would start moving toward safety. Safety of rocks, the safety of trees, over the side of a cliff, something like that. They would move towards safety. And the beta males would be running back and forth, kind of herding them in the right direction, making sure nobody went in the wrong direction in the excitement, and making sure that none of the young got left behind or anything like that. But Alpha would do something that none of the others would do. Alpha would head straight for the fucking leopard. And he would place himself in between the threat and the troop, and he would not retreat until the troop was in safe cover. Then he would retreat to cover, but he would maintain his position between the leopard and the troop. That's Alpha. The other interesting thing they learned from observing actual encounters between predators and the baboon troops was that if the predator didn't get a baboon on its first shot before Alpha got there, usually the predator would disengage eventually. In other words, usually the predator would not attack the Alpha. And they learned why on the few times where they observed predators who did. And that was because any other baboon, even the betas, if a predator got a claw on them or a jaw on them or something, they might fight back, but the purpose of their fight was to get away, to escape. But if the predator went after Alpha, Alpha would fight. And he would fight to hurt the predator. And he would not retreat until the troop was safe, and then he might try and get away. In the process of fighting to hurt the predator, he might succeed. Baboons have nasty teeth. They are powerful creatures. They'll rip your face off. The predator might become wounded. In fact, likely would become wounded. And a wounded predator is a dead predator. So frequently the Alpha would take the predator with him. See what I'm saying? And that is what it is to be an Alpha. Alpha protects. 2 words. Alpha doesn't sell drugs to children. Alpha protects children. Alpha doesn't pimp out girls. Alpha protects girls. Alpha protects women. Alpha protects. And in humans, Alpha builds. He protects from the elements. Alpha earns. He protects from starvation, from hunger, from need. And Alpha protects physically, if that's what Alpha's got to do. So that's the truth of what it is to be an Alpha. It's not being a big shot. It's being the guy who is willing to run slower than everybody else when the bear is chasing them. My 2 cents worth. And there are a lot of things that are better to be maybe than an Alpha. Might be better to be a beta. The betas, in their studies, the 2 betas did about an equal amount of mating between them as the Alpha did. So the betas mated too. Mated also just half as much as Alpha. And then as far as the secret subtle cue, the instructions from Alpha as to when it was time to move and which way to move, he just got up and started heading in a direction. And everybody got up and followed him. Why? Not because he was the big bad boss, because alpha protects, and they wanted his protection. Why did the troop stay organized like that? Because if the omega males tried to come in where the females were and everything, alpha and the betas would kick their butts back to the perimeter in a painful way and put them in line. That's simple. Why did alpha not chase off the betas? Because he needed his lieutenants. He needed them to get the troops safe while he dealt with the leopard. So, why did the females follow alpha and the betas? Because they wanted their protection. Even the omegas got up and moved and stayed in their position. Why? Because even the omegas, as long as they didn't get eaten in the first encounter, were protected by alpha. That's my 2 cents worth. I hope you guys are having a nice day. It's beautiful here. I don't know, it's in the 90s, Central California, which for here is kind of cool. And I had a really good workout, so I'm heading towards sore. I think I'll take a little soak and a little swim. You guys have an awesome weekend. I'm out.